Are the Rams already being disrespected around the NFL? We're going to talk about where they rank in terms of NFL.com's recent power rankings. Of course, pre-draft power rankings, but still want to see where the Rams rank and who ranks ahead of them on today's episode. We're also going to sit and talk about a player who recently re-signed with the Rams and how excited he was about the addition of Davante Adams. All on today's episode of the Rams Digest. I'm your host, Joshua Hidon. Remember, if you guys are not subscribed to the channel, do me a favor, press that subscribe button now, as 73.2% of you guys are watching the videos, but you're still not subscribed to the channel. Do me a favor, press that subscribe button so you don't miss any daily Rams content here at the Rams Digest. I did miss yesterday, a little bit tired from a long day of work, but we're here, we're back, and we're ready to talk about Ahkello Witherspoon versus Davante Adams. Now, what are we actually discussing here? Well, Ahkello Witherspoon obviously very excited, re-signing with the Rams on a one-year deal. We talked about how great and smart of a move that was in the last episode, but he also had some things to say about the addition of Davante Adams and how he felt about that addition. Before I get into the quote, I want to kind of introduce this here. Ahkello Witherspoon shares why he was overly excited about the Rams signing Davante Adams. This comes to us from the Rams Wire. Shout out to Cameron Da Silva, always kind of pulling stories from what he's discussing. And ultimately, I do think it kind of makes some sense, right? Why a player like Ahkello Witherspoon would be excited to compete against a guy like Davante Adams. Of course, he's competed with Kupp in the past, and obviously Puka Nacua as well. But to compete against one of the greatest receivers in NFL history is probably going to be pretty exciting for him to get better as an individual. And so he had to say this about that situation. He said, "I think for me personally, it's the first moment where I get overly excited, where I'm not really inside of myself when I see them sign a guy like Davante Adams," he said, "because that's the joy and passion for me, being able to compete against somebody like that on a daily basis and take that training to go play on a game day. And it'd be much calmer and much simpler because I've had elite reps against guys like Davante and Puka Nacua, Kupp when he was here. Those are the moments that I love, and just being excited about a space that's improving and trying to take the next steps and wanting to be a part of that." And so I think this is very obviously highlighting, one, Davante Adams and the talent he has. Two, really highlighting Ahkello Witherspoon, his maturity as a player. This is why I was super excited. I think it was a really smart move for the Rams to bring back an Ahkello Witherspoon, a veteran like him, because the mindset he has is obviously very mature and professional. He is excited. The passion he has for the game is getting better, competing against great players like Davante Adams and Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp. And so I think having that perspective on the defensive side of the ball, a guy who's excited, he's signing a one-year deal. He just wants to be a part of this team and a part of how great the Rams can be in this next upcoming season. And I think having that mentality at the cornerback position is obviously a very, very important thing to do for the Rams, and just kind of really shines a light on the front office, showing how, I kind of was feeling like the Rams may be in a place where they're ready to move on and rebuild from Matthew Stafford, Cooper Kupp, and whatnot, but they flip that on its head and say, no, we're going to go after Davante Adams and be ready to compete, Puna Ford and all these guys, and we are ready to compete for a Super Bowl now. It kind of just feels like all of a sudden in one offseason, they are ready to compete at that next level. Just a chance to be my best, he said. This is still with Ahkello Witherspoon and what he had to say about Davante Adams. That's all I'm looking forward to this year, just the time to focus on my craft and fine-tune some of the things that I can improve on, with the opportunity to be the best that I can be for my teammates. That's my focus. Ultimately, how do you not want to run through a brick wall with Ahkello Witherspoon playing alongside you, saying things like this? He's focused, he's ready to go, he's hungry to win and compete, and he just wants to get better. That's what he's excited about. How can you not love a guy like Ahkello Witherspoon being on this defense? That's why I think the Rams are kind of the great team that they are. I think this also shows Sean McVay's leadership, right? It's just a lot of really things to key in on and highlight here from what Ahkello Witherspoon is saying. The mentality, I think, it just not just within Ahkello Witherspoon, but within a lot of players on this Rams football team on both sides of the ball. So shout out to Ahkello Witherspoon for just kind of being locked in and focused and excited to compete against the great players that the Rams have on the offensive side of the ball. Moving on from that, Rams disrespected. Are they being a little bit disrespected? Well, let me first acknowledge and talk about where they rank in terms of these recent power rankings, as we are talking about NFL.com's recent power ranking update. This comes to us from, again, NFL.com. I want to pull up real quick. I think I have it here somewhere. Here we go. This is coming from Eric Edholm. This is a couple of days ago, so obviously a lot of things to discuss here, but we'll sit and talk about where the Rams rank specifically, as he has the Rams as the number 10 team in the NFL. pretty solid, sneak into the top 10. Can't really complain too much when we're talking about this. I get it. But at the same time, I do want to say there were some teams ahead of the Rams that we'll talk about in a second that I'm kind of more like thinking about and makes me feel the Rams maybe being underrated this year, right? But first, what do you have to say about the Rams, right, sitting at 10? So he says, I'm on board with essentially swapping out Cooper Kupp for Davante Adams, even if Adams is 6 months older than and has more NFL mileage. If you watch both, you know it looks like Adams has more juice at this stage, even if he's still good for maddening drop every other game. Adams and Puka Nacua are also a more explosive duo. Plus, that defensive coordinator wants to single cover Adams. Adding Adams while ensuring Matthew Stafford and Sean McVay will be back together for another year keeps the Rams in the upper reaches here, and their footing will be further solidified if that young defense can continue making strides after some encouraging developments following last season's slow start. And so ultimately, yeah, that's kind of where we all feel, I think, as Rams fans, right? Yes, bringing in Davante Adams, that's kind of the biggest thing here. You can say what you want about the age of Davante Adams versus Cooper Kupp. We all kind of know the reality, right? He is a better receiver at this point in his career than Cooper Kupp, which is why the Rams are moving on from Kupp and bringing in Davante Adams. Very obvious there. I think most people would agree with that. And so ultimately, yes, I like what he's saying, but it's like he's kind of saying, well, if that defense can continue to make strides, whereas I feel like the defense has made some key additions and they will continue to make strides. We haven't even seen their draft yet, right? And so ultimately, I do feel like, the Rams are in a good place. I'm not going to pull any different screenshots up here, but I do want to rank some of the teams or show you where he ranks some of the teams on this list. So we have the Philadelphia Eagles sitting at the number 1 slot, obviously Super Bowl champs. Kansas City Chiefs, number 2, makes sense. Baltimore Ravens sitting at number 3, the Buffalo Bills sitting at number 4, and the Detroit Lions sitting at number 5. So far, so good. Whether you want to rearrange this list of where the top 5 teams are, I don't really mind. I don't really care. The fact of the matter is, from the Rams' perspective, the Rams are definitely under these players, right? Should be ranked below some of these teams. I'm sorry, not players. But when we're talking about the Washington Commanders, that's where I kind of maybe pause for a second and say, okay, they've added some great players, Deebo Samuel, Laramie Tunzel, but Deebo, we also know that isn't really the same old Deebo at this point in his career. Laramie Tunzel is an older offensive lineman for sure as well, and, overall, they also released Jonathan Allen on the defensive side of things, so are they really going to be this incredible team again? I think they can be, for sure, but to lock them in at 6 over the Rams easily, I hesitate in that sense. We talked about last year, if the Rams got to the point where they're going to go compete with Washington, I think a lot of people expected the Rams to take care of business, similar to what the Philadelphia Eagles did to the Washington Commanders last year. But ultimately, that is a team that made the NFC Championship, so maybe you give them a little extra credit for that as well. Minnesota Vikings rank at number 7. That's one that I'm very, very curious about as to why they are ranked so high. We have not seen J.J. McCarthy and what he can do on the field yet. Yes, they've re-signed a lot of players. We'll see some of the explanation here. We're talking about they added defensive tackle Jonathan Allen and Javon Hargrave. So that defense is obviously beefing up a little bit. Great for them. O-line wasn't how they wanted it. They dropped 2 starters, added Will Fries and Ryan Kelly. Just because they added players, though, doesn't mean they're going to be great, but fine. They added some offensive linemen. Great for them. Kept Byron Murphy Jr. and Aaron Jones, so re-signing some guys there, letting Sam Darnold walk. They made a savvy deal and a trade for Jordan Mason. But overall, I really have to hone in and focus in on the simple fact that they have J.J. McCarthy at quarterback, a quarterback that we have just not seen consistently be good in the NFL. He was hurt all last season, so I'm not trying to be unfair to J.J. McCarthy, but I am trying to be fair here and say, should we really rank the Vikings this high when we really have no idea what their quarterback is going to look like this coming season? We'll have to wait and see on that. Are they going to sign Aaron Rodgers? I don't think so. And so that's kind of where I'm like iffy on the Vikings being above the Rams. The Green Bay Packers also ranked above the Rams. Okay, sure. I think the Rams first made it farther in the playoffs, right? So that's one thing to note. But also, I think ultimately, fine. I'm not really super mad at the Packers and Rams are closely related, but I would say the Rams maybe over the Packers. And also the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are ranked above the Rams. And that's another one where I kind of feel iffy on. The Bucs are doing a great job. Don't get me wrong. I like Baker Mayfield and what they're all doing in Tampa Bay. But ultimately, I don't know. It just feels kind of like in my opinion, I'm kind of expecting the Buccaneers to be almost the same as they were last year. Just kind of in that okay, pretty good, pretty competitive kind of range. But I don't know if they're necessarily going to be better than the Rams next season. You guys let me know how you guys feel about those rankings. What team would you rank the Rams over in terms of the top 10? Would it top 5, again, I think we're pretty, you could say, are pretty much ranked above the Rams. It's fine with. But from that 6 to 10 mark, do you feel the Commanders are better? Do you feel the Vikings are better? The Packers, the Buccaneers? You guys let me know how you guys feel about which team you think the Rams should be ranked ahead in terms of the power rankings. We still have a lot of off-season to go. We still have the draft to go, so I'm not freaking out about power rankings. I'm just kind of feeling like, are we getting disrespected a little bit? We'll have to wait and see. I don't think people are really knowing what to expect out of Devontae Adams and Puka Nacua, or at least they're underrating kind of what they're going to bring to the table next season. Moving on, last but not least, trivia of the day, my favorite part of the episode. If you guys have never seen it before, I ask a trivia question at the end of every episode that I'm on here at the Rams Digest. You guys give your guesses down below in the comments. I'll shout you out whether you get it right, whether you get it wrong on the next episode. So we all play along, have a good time playing a little bit of trivia. Last episode's trivia of the day was this question here. Whose 5 seasons with 5,000 or more passing yards in a season is the most all-time among quarterbacks? If you guys didn't see this question last episode, no worries. You can try to play along right now at home, as we had a couple guesses here. The multiple choice options were A, Ben Roethlisberger, B, Dan Marino, C, Tom Brady, or D, Drew Brees. Again, whose 5 seasons with 5,000 or more passing yards in a season is the most all-time among NFL quarterbacks? Was it Ben Roethlisberger? Was it Dan Marino, Tom Brady, or Drew Brees? We had 2 people play along. Shout out to Floyd. Shout out to Brian B., who have been multiple time get players, I guess, multiple trivia guessers here on the Rams Digest channel. I appreciate you guys for continuing to play along. They both decided to guess Dan Marino. That was incorrect. The actual correct answer for this trivia question is Drew Brees, who I will say this, now that I get an opportunity to talk about Drew Brees for a second, I don't know how you guys feel about him. I know there was a little bit of an issue with New Orleans fans and Rams fans in very recent history in terms of playoffs, including a Drew Brees game led team, but and that may have obviously brought some hate out from Rams fans in terms of Drew Brees, but I've always loved Drew Brees, and I will say this. I don't think he's the greatest quarterback of all time, because he can't be, because Tom Brady is. When you have 7 Super Bowl championships, it's very hard to say you're not the greatest player of all time. But I've always said this. There's a difference between greatest player of all time and best player of all time. And when we're talking about Michael Jordan and LeBron, for example, I think Jordan might be the greatest, LeBron might be the best. But either way, that's a different argument for another day. When we're talking about the GOAT versus the BOAT here in the NFL, I might say Drew Brees is up there as one of the best quarterbacks of all time. You guys really got to look at his statistics. I mean, over 70,000 passing yards. Drew Brees was throwing to sometimes just like barely practice squad, almost practice squad receivers at times in his career, and it was still very, very successful for the majority of his NFL career. Just throwing it out there. Shout out to Drew Brees. I'm not saying he is the best of all time. I'm just saying I really like him a lot, and I think he may be in that conversation for one of the best quarterbacks of all time. You guys let me know how you guys feel about that. Moving on to today's trivia of the day. For those who have never played, here's your opportunity to play along. This is a Rams-specific question, so everyone here should get it right. Not that I'm judging if you don't, but, just trying to give you guys another Rams lob here. En route to NFL stardom, Rams wide receiver Torrey Holt was a collegiate standout at what ACC school? You guys let me know your guesses down below. Should I give you multiple choice? Should I not? Hesitating on that. I'll go ahead and give you multiple choice. Give your guesses down below. If you guys know it without the multiple choice options, let me know. Say, did it before the multiple choice or whatever you want to say. I want to see if you guys got this. Just kind of locked in your head. But if not, it's okay. Multiple choice options are A, North Carolina State, B, Clemson, C, Duke, or D, Florida State. Let me know your guesses down below in the comment section. If you guys get it right, I'll shout you out. If you get it wrong, I'll shout you out. But hit me up with a comment. Give your guess of this trivia question of the day, and we'll shout you out on the next episode. Other than that, that's going to do it for me on the today's episode of the Rams Digest. I don't know why I couldn't talk there. Make sure you guys subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed already. And if you guys missed out on the Hot Takes app opportunity, make sure you guys, look out in the future if I give you guys shout outs for any other kind of events like that to join here on the show. But I do want to say, any of you guys out there who are watching who did join the Rams Digest March Madness bracket pool, wish you the best of luck in your guys' brackets. I'm not doing the best right now, I'll be honest with you. I'm ranked like 88th, I think, in the group. So not really the best at this moment in time. But hey, we'll have to wait and see who wins it all on the March Madness bracket. That's going to do it for me on today's episode of the Rams Digest. I'm your host, Joshua Giron, and I'm out.